Rockfin, any day now. We can get you going. We'll be ready to go. All right. Thursday in the house.
Doobie-doobie-doo. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
All right. Happy Thursday, guys. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Quick shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. What's going on, guys? Very, very cool day for RBN. For those who have not seen, Nick from RBN was on Rising this morning. Please go check out that video. Eric, if you have the link, feel free to put the link in the chat for people to see. I think Nick did a phenomenal job. So definitely check that out. RBN, hey, we're making waves. We're making waves out here. Want to say hello quickly to people in the chat, and then we'll get into tonight's stories. So let's go ahead and do that. Shout out to Jay, about to eat dinner. It's all Sabby and sweet potatoes. I actually haven't made baked sweet potatoes in a while. I should make that soon. Now you're giving me thoughts, Jay. Shout out to Joe. The independent voter outnumbers the Republican and Democratic voter combined. This is true. There are more independents than there are Republican or Democrat. Shout out to Saul. Love, peace, and soul, baby. Get on the Sabby Sabs train. Oh, that's cute. I like that. What's going on, Angela? Couldn't make it for the earlier show with JB, but here now. Happy Friday Eve. Hashtag Sabby Part 2. Hashtag Doobie Doobie Doo. Greetings, Hannah. Shaun King, the con man. I'm already seeing the jokes about Shaun King in the chat. So I'm going to try to keep a straight face, but we will get into that story tonight. Shout out to Negro. What has Talcum X done this time? Oh, God. Greetings, Dabby Dabs. I missed the early show, too, trying to rescue a hurt squirrel. I'm here now, though. Hello, Sabby fam. Greetings, gamer says hello. What's going on? Lewis says rolling in and checking in. Shout out to Terry Hinton. Hello, Sabby and chat. What's going on, Delthea, who's a Sabby member? Hello. Greetings, Lawrence, who's a Sabby member. Doobie Doobie Door 2024. Shout out to Raziel, the Great. Let's go. Press that thumb. Hit that like button, guys. That helps me out with the algorithm. Thank you for the reminder, Razia. Shout out to the Wilk Report. Rockfin still hasn't responded to my request to let me post videos. Rokana is full of it. King is a grifter and a fraud. Well said, Wilk. Yeah, I'm not sure about that in reference to Rockfin, the Wilk Report. I know when I joined Rockfin, I had to complete an application, and then it took a while for them to get back to me. I think it took about a couple of weeks. So I'm not sure how soon you completed that application, but hopefully you'll hear something soon. Shout out to Marxist Leninist Chavista. So glad my baby Sabby is on. Oh, don't let my husband hear that one. Shout out to Bobby Doobie. So what's going on, app lover app? I don't know what that means, but welcome. Shout out to Desert Mantis. I feel like a snail on the edge of a knife tonight. Ouch. What's going on, Desert Mantis? Shout out to Eric Gray says, what up, everybody? What's going on? Radical Leftist Agenda says, click like. Greetings, Robert. Shalom, my something. Greetings. Shout out to Rodrigo. Where is the RBN Bad Faith podcast interview? That will be posted next week. I think next Thursday, I believe. But trust, we'll let you know. You'll hear from us. Shout out to Peggy. Nick was fantastic. Yes, he was. Nick killed it, bringing the fire as usual. What's going on, John? Jimmy Dore has been featuring you on his show a lot lately. I've heard that from people. A lot of times I don't get to catch him live because I'm live either at the same time or he's starting when I'm ending or I'm starting when he's ending. But someone did send me a clip recently showing me that I was on there. But thanks. I really do appreciate that. Shout out to Terry. Hi, fam. What's going on, JM, who's a Sabby member? Thank you so much for that super sticker. Greetings, Roman. I'm glad I made it just in time. I'm glad you did too. Welcome. I'm going to try to be serious tonight, you guys. I really am going to try. But the Shaun King thing, it just, oh boy. Sherry, Zen to all. Peace, love, planet. Shout out to Optimism of the Will. Saying hello to Angela there. Scary to see you. Not sure what that's all about. Greetings, Eric T. Red, who's a Sabby member, says, hey there all. Shout out to Butter Cookie. Hey, from Georgia. And I like the cute little pup in the picture. Oh my God, the puppy has on a tutu. It looks like a pink little tutu. I love it. I told my husband, I was like, can we get a puppy? And he says, one day, and I asked him if I could dress up the puppy, if I could buy puppy clothes, if I could take the puppy to a puppy spa and get their nails done and everything. There used to be a puppy spa down the street from me, and I used to see them through the window, and they used to paint the little puppy nails. And he said, no, a dog is a dog. He said, dogs don't wear clothes and dogs don't get their nails done. Shout out to Yasmin says, hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. What's going on, Rick? Nick destroyed. Have they found Robbie yet? Oh, dear. Greetings, Kevin says hello from Seattle, Washington. I have never been to Seattle. Shout out Terry says Talcum, the fake Groots organizer. Oh, God. The fake grassroots organizer. Oh, man, you guys are killing me tonight. You're really coming after it. Okay. And I also want to give a shout out to Bobby. Sabby, I must say, I don't think I can make anyone with more G than you do. I can make anyone with more G than you do. I don't know what that means, but welcome. Okay. And thank you for the super sticker Oz. Hey, kudos to Nick for kicking Robbie's rump. You guys have got to watch that episode if you haven't seen it. Check out that segment. Okay, quick shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate it. Shout out to Sabby patrons. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories. All of their names are listed here. We have members, Sabby, Sabsters, Sabinators, and of course, the ultimate. Thank you guys so much. You can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen. On the ticker there as well. And I do want to give a big whoop whoop to a new Sabby patron. Shout out to Carolyn Mays. Let's give her the big whoop in the house. Thank you so much and welcome. Okay. We have some interesting stories to talk about tonight. Let's go ahead and share that thumbnail because, oh dear. I said, how am I going to get through this tonight? Okay, tonight we are discussing Richard Wolff, third party. What does Richard Wolff say about workers and third parties? That's going to be an interesting discussion. We're going to get into that. I'm also going to discuss Khanna defense. Who is Ro out here defending now? And why is it a problem? We're also going to discuss Donald Trump is sued by the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James. We're going to get into that. Yes, that finally has happened. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the impeccable ever grifter, Shaun King, has been busted again, has been outed again. And I sincerely hope this time around, people will stop donating money to Shaun King's organizations. We're going to get into all of that tonight. But first and foremost, I'm actually going to get started with this Khanna story. So quick shout out to K Study QB here. We have two clips. The first clip is going to discuss the immigration issue at the border. There's some defense there. And the second clip, we're going to discuss the possibility of Joe Biden running again and some of the statements that Joe Biden made during his 60 Minutes interview. So Khanna during this interview was on Fox News. Yes, he went on to Fox News, and Case Study QB doing what he does best, clipping these for all of us. So thank you so much for that. We really do appreciate your work, Case. But let's hear what Khanna here has to say about the border issue and immigration. You're going to love this one.
All right, let me move on because I want to talk about the border. This is what your colleague Kamala Harris said a week ago and what some of your other Democratic colleagues have said in the time since. Listen here.
The border is secure.
It's wrong. She's dead wrong on that. Does anybody say that our borders are secured? That is not accurate. I've been there.
The border's not secure, without due respect to the VP. We get thousands of people along the border, from 6,000 to 8,000 people a day.
So I know you didn't have the benefit of seeing the monitor, but that was Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Henry Cuellar of Texas, whose district includes El Paso, which is literally drowning in illegal migrants. Where do you come down on what Kamala Harris said? You're from a border state. Is the border secure?
I recognize their voices, Senator Manchin and Representative Cuellar. Look, I think we can do more to secure the border, but what that looks like is comprehensive immigration reform. It's secure, but we can make it securer. I mean,
Okay. See, they caught him off guard here. I want you to listen to what he said, because this is important. Pay attention to what he says and how he tries to switch it up.
6,000 to 8,000 people a day.
So I know you didn't have the benefit of seeing the monitor, but that was Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Henry Cuellar of Texas, whose district includes El Paso, which is literally drowning in illegal migrants. Where do you come down on what Kamala Harris said? You're from a border state. Is the border secure?
So the question is the border secure? Yes or no? And he tries to deflect here, which we've seen a lot of times on this show. We've showed you a lot of times the politicians, they'll do that. When they don't want to say yes or no, they'll deflect. But then the commentator cuts him off and is kind of pushing him to say, no, you need to give me a yes or a no here. There's no deflection on this. Either it's secure or it's not.
Recognize their voices, Senator Manchin and Representative Cuellar. Look, I think we can do more to secure the border, but what that looks like is comprehensive immigration reform. It's secure, but we can make it securer. I mean,
I'm sorry, Congressman. How is it secure when 2.35 million people by the 31st of this month will have come across the border illegally?
Yeah. So either it's secure or it's not secure. So you heard him at first. He said, well, I think there's things we can do to make it more secure. He interrupts him and he says, but is it secure? He said, well, I think we can make it securer. No, like, I don't know, if it was secure, people wouldn't be coming through. People wouldn't be coming through. And this is just a yes or no question. Now, how should he have answered that question? I don't know. Maybe just say, well, currently it is not secure, but we are working on our ways to make it fully secure. But he deflected. That was a yes or no question. And the thing is, him and Kamala Harris, they know the border is not secure. If it was secure, people wouldn't be coming through. Let's go on. There's more to this conversation.
Well, there are more border agents down there, in my view, by the numbers than were even there under President Obama or President Bush. So, but why is it not secure? Let's have an honest conversation. One of the reasons is you have employers here saying, come.
So I hope you just caught that. So again, he said it was secure, but you can make it more secure. But listen to what he says here.
5 million people by the 31st of this month will have come across the border illegally.
Well, there are more border agents down there, in my view, by the numbers than were even there under President Obama or President Bush. So, but why is it not secure? Let's have an honest.
He just said, why is it not secure? So it's not secure. So which is it? Did you guys catch that? I wonder if other people caught that when they watched this clip. So he admits to you right there, why is it not secure? He's admitting it is not secure, which again contradicts Kamala Harris's statement. And she was asked that question twice during that interview.
Conversation. One of the reasons is you have employers here saying, come work for us. People are trying to come across the border. They're coming without the paperwork, and many of them want to go back, but there's no process. And this is why we had a gang of hate. We had comprehensive immigration reform. We said people who want to come here to work and go back, there should be a process. That was President George W. Bush's proposal, and we can have increased technology and security at the border. There was a bipartisan deal. If we really want to solve the problem, why not do that? And there are many of us who are willing to work to do that instead of just yelling at each other, which doesn't solve the problem, and it gets worse and worse every year.
So what happened to the plan that George W. Bush had? Why was that not implemented? That was a Republican president. Why was that not implemented? And you always have to come back with, why are they coming here to begin with? And George, I like your comment here. He knocks it out of the park. Don't like massive illegal immigration. Knock it off with sanctions. Knock it off with the coups. Knock it off with interference. Knock it off with the drug war. There you go. There's a reason why they are coming here. Barbara says there's no such word as secure. I don't know, man.
Woman was on last hour, basically asking a question, where is Vice President Kamala Harris? I mean, she was appointed the border czar. We haven't seen her at the border. We haven't seen a whole lot of communications on the border. And she's giving interviews, most recently last weekend, saying that the border is secure. You've got this major influx of migrants pouring over our border to the point where you've got governors of American states trying to figure out what to do with them.
Well, first of all, what they did to migrants, whatever your view on the border and shipping them somewhere, I just think that was wrong. And I hope people can agree that that's wrong. Regardless, look, we're a nation that believes every person is endowed by their creator with dignity. And whatever you think on the border, we ought to treat every person with some dignity. I just think that's who we are as Americans. And what I disagreed with Governor DeSantis.
So Khanna just said that we need to treat every person with some dignity. I agree. But if Khanna believes that, then why do we still have kids in cages at the border? Putting kids in cages is not my idea of treating people with dignity. And let's just be real here. They were in cages under Obama. He was the one who put them there. Just a reminder for the people who are upset. He was the one who put them there. Kids were in cages under Trump. And now we have another Democrat president and kids are still in cages. So we're not treating them with dignity either. Do you see what I mean? When it comes to Democrat, Republican, there are certain issues where it just seems like regardless who the party is that is in charge, the issue doesn't really improve. Immigration is one of those examples. You have kids in cages under a Republican president, under a Democrat president. You have someone like Governor DeSantis sending migrants from Florida to other places like Martha Vineyard to outside Kamala Harris's home. We know this was a political stunt. He's trying to flex his political muscle and power here. But regardless of the party that is in the White House at that time, whether it's Republican or Democrat, immigration has not been resolved. It has not been fixed in this country. So it's still a problem. Still a problem.
by doing that is forget the border dispute. Just treat people with dignity when they're in America, whether they stay in America or not. But I agree that we have a challenge at the border, and the challenge is hurting those of us who care about a humanitarian policy.
But the question was Kamala Harris. Do you think she's doing a good job with the border?
I think we need a better solution on comprehensive immigration reform. And so what I would say to the vice president is help lead to get comprehensive immigration reform done. There is a framework that President George W. Bush did. He was a border state governor. He had a proposal back in the early 2000s. I think if we could just do that, and by the way, the House has passed a proposal that would allow people to come here as guest workers and then go back. It's not even path to citizenship. Why can't we at least do things like that that would reduce the tension? You know, I understand the ranchers on the border. I understand people are coming over, they're destroying the property. In many cases, they're unsafe. I'm sympathetic to that. I understand that.
So to answer that question that she just asked him, is Kamala Harris doing a good job in reference to the border? He's given a nice little speech there. The answer to that question is no. That's a long way of saying no. We can look at it again. I think it's about here.
Major influx of migrants pouring over our border to the point where you've got governors of American states trying to figure out what to do with them.
Well, first of all, what they did to migrants, whatever your view on the border and shipping them somewhere, I just think that was wrong. And I hope people can agree that that's wrong. Regardless, look, we're a nation that believes every person is endowed by their creator with dignity. And whatever you think on the border, we ought to treat every person with some dignity. I just think that's who we are as Americans. And what I disagreed with Governor DeSantis by doing that is forget the border dispute. Just treat people with dignity when they're in America, whether they stay in America or not. But I agree that we have a challenge at the border, and the challenge is hurting those of us who care about a humanitarian policy.
But the question was Kamala Harris. Do you think she's doing a good job with the border?
That's the question.
I think we need a better solution on comprehensive immigration reform. And so
that's a no. That's a no.
I would say to the vice president is help lead to get comprehensive immigration reform done. There is a framework that President George W. Bush did. He was a border state governor. He had a proposal back in the early 2000s. I think if we could just do that, and by the way, the House has passed a proposal that would allow people to come here as guest workers and then go back. It's not even path to citizenship. Why can't we at least do things like that that would...
You want them to come here as guest workers and then go back? Let me get this straight, Ro. You want immigrants to come into the United States, do our dirty work for us, so you can pay them very little. They will be paid very little compared to other people in this country, and then send them back home. That's what you want? Do you think they come here as a guest worker? Do you think they're going to want to go back home, though? They're coming here because they want to live here. How many people are going to sign up for that? You really think they're going to be on board for that? What? Let me just come here so we can use your labor and then we'll send you back. I'm confused. So you're just going to use them?
Reduce the tension. You know, I understand the ranchers on the border. I understand people are coming over. They're destroying the property. In many cases, they're unsafe. I'm sympathetic to that. I understand that. That has to be fixed. At the same time, many of these ranchers want people to hire. So how do we fix this? Well, there's a guest worker program that would solve a lot of it. It wasn't my idea. It wasn't a Democratic idea. It was a Republican president, President George W. Bush. I'm saying let's just pass that and we can take a step forward.
But why do you have to send them back home after they've done the labor, Khanna? I know, JB, destroying the property. Why do you have to send them back home after they've done the labor? That's just exploitation. This is capitalism at its finest.
Congressman, I want to move on to the 2024 election, but just one final button that if we can put on this very quickly.
Sure.
So maybe he's not sending them to Martha's vineyard. And that was obviously an attention-getting act on the part of Ron DeSantis. But Oscar Leeser, who is the Democratic mayor of El Paso, is busing illegal migrants to New York City saying, we're full, we can't handle this anymore. And yet nobody is saying anything in criticism to that. But they're
See, but this is what I just said. It's not one party that's doing it. Both Democrats and Republicans have not figured out how to solve this issue. Both. So you got Democrats doing it too.
They're criticizing DeSantis. They're criticizing Ducey. They're criticizing Abbott.
Well, I think what was criticizing DeSantis was it looked like there was trying to make a political point out of it, and there are many
Clearly
other ways he
was.
can make. And there are very many other ways he can make a political point. I just don't think you should do it at the expense of people who are vulnerable, even Republicans, even people on the right who disagree with my policy.
So is Ro Khanna okay with the Democrat governor doing the same thing? So he's okay with the Democrat governor doing it because he felt like he's not trying to make a political point. He's against Ron DeSantis doing it because he felt like he was trying to make a political point. Both of them are sending the migrants to other states, though. They're both doing the same thing. This is the problem with the two-party system. Do you see how easy it is when you belong to a party to defend your party's actions because it's your party? This is another look. We're going to make the case for this one day. This is another example that you can point to make the case for a third-party movement. This is another example that you can point to because he just admitted it. He just admitted it. And on Fox News of all places.
On the border don't believe that you should be manipulating people. But I agree that it's a problem. We have to solve it. And the way to do it is comprehensive immigration reform.
Ro Khanna. Case Study QB's in the house. Thanks for the shout out as usual, Sabs. Greatly appreciate it. Welcome, Case. Welcome. I don't know what to say, but there's another clip because this is a longer interview and there's another clip we're going to go to as well. But I do want to get to these comments here first. Terry says the Hispanics will be the new voters, so Democrats don't depend on the black vote. I think this can be a common misconception because the idea or the assumption is that Hispanics who are moving here are going to automatically vote Democrat. What about those that vote Republican? Just something to think about. Delthea Simmons says people come here from undeveloped countries. Who underdeveloped them? Again, rich white guys are responsible for that underdevelopment and they should be locked up. Yasmin says they're passing the migrants like they're hot potatoes. Get these people help. Mark, Sabby, if the railroad strike fails, should that be signal for a general strike? I would really like to see the railroad strike combined with the truckers, combined with the port workers on the West Coast, because they are under duress there. I would like to see all three of those groups get together. If that were to happen, boom, that's your general strike. That's your general strike right there. But we would need at least one of the transportation fields to be on board with it, because as long as the goods are still getting through, it's going to be hard to have a general strike. Now, there's another clip that I want to go to as well from this interview that Ro Khanna had. And shout out to Case Study QB for this clip as well. Now, this clip is in reference to Biden possibly running again and some of the comments that he made on that 60 Minutes interview, which I told you guys I thought was pretty cringe. Let's get to it.
Okay, so on to 2024. President Biden said yesterday he's not sure whether he's going to run for re-election in 2024. Would you encourage him to?
He has to make that decision, but I believe that he is convinced that he's the best person to beat Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is going to be the nominee of the Republican Party. Every poll I've said shows that he still has a tremendous amount of support, especially among working class Republicans. And so then the question is, who can beat Donald Trump on our side? President Biden has beaten him once. He has the right to make that determination. I believe he is going to run, but it's his decision to make if he still is the best person to beat him.
All right.
In other words, I'll say what Ro Khanna would not say, and that's, no, I'm not going to encourage him. The question was, would you encourage him to run? He kind of just threw the ball back in the court and said, I think it's up to him to make that decision, but would you encourage him? So that was a no. Let's go on.
Well, he's raising some eyebrows with some of the things he said in this brand new interview over the weekend, 60 Minutes. This specifically on the pandemic. Interesting timing. Listen.
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over.
So are those in his party, all of them, going to get the memo? Are they going to end the mandates and the restrictions that are still happening in many states?
I think what the president was trying to say is that the worst of the pandemic is over. Look, when you give a lot of interviews and
Here he comes defending Joe Biden. So he tried to defend Kamala Harris in the other clip, and now he's trying to defend Joe Biden in this clip. And it's always, I think what Joe Biden meant to say, I think what the president really meant was this. No, like when people are giving these speeches, when they're giving these interviews, we don't know what you mean. We know what you say. And it always takes someone like a Ro Khanna or Kamala Harris or a Pramila Jayapal to come in and rescue them and tell you what they really meant, even though that's not what they said. Here we go. Defense number 2.
And every word is dissected, as I know, and probably my Twitter feed after this will have
a lot of interviews might be a stretch, considering we haven't seen the president sit down for an interview.
He gave one.
He's out there, but look, obviously there's still long COVID. There's still people who are vulnerable, who have issues. I just got my booster shot for Omicron. I don't think we can be complacent about it. But what he was trying to say is life is largely returned to normal.
He said the pandemic is over.
That was pretty unequivocal.
The way I would phrase it is that the worst of the pandemic is over. That's how I would phrase it, and that is my view of what the president's intention was. Obviously.
But how do you know what the president's intention was? Did he tell you? Did he reach out to you, Ro, and say, well, Ro, you know what I really meant was this? Is that what he meant to say? Why isn't Joe Biden speaking for himself? If he made a mistake with what he said, why isn't Joe Biden the one coming forward on Fox News or whatever network you want to be on? Why isn't Joe Biden the one coming forward saying, oh, yes, I know I said that in that 60 Minutes interview, but what I meant was this? Why is it always everybody else speaking for him instead of him speaking for himself? Just a question.
He's entitled to his expression, but I think they've done a tremendous job to get a lot of people vaccinated. And why can't we come together in this country? Why can't we just say, look, President Trump and his team helped develop some of those vaccines, and President Biden helped distribute them, and this is actually a success of America, and let's put the partisan politics aside and give credit to people on both administrations who helped develop.
Why can't we come together? We can't come together because the two-party system keeps us divided. That's why. It's been that way for a long time. He said, get past partisan politics, but this is what we are under. We are under a duopoly of partisan politics. This is why we can't come together. What we should be focusing on is the class issue, the class divide that we have in this country, and fighting it back against the oligarchs who are oppressing the majority of us in this country. But we can't do that because people are blinded by what the right is saying and what the left is saying. And you have networks like Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC who continue to push that divide. And you have politicians that continue to push that divide. that fearmonger that tell people that, well, you better vote for this person or otherwise you're going to get that one. That's why we can't come together. When is the last time you've seen these politicians actually working together, so to speak? They said Joe Biden would be the one who could work across the aisle. I don't see him crossing any aisles. I don't see Joe Biden doing that much walking at all, to be honest. And I don't see him doing a lot of interviews either. That 60-minute interview that he just did, when was the last time he did an interview before that? So let's be real here. You guys created this system. You guys are the one that pushed this partisan politics. And now you want to come forward and say, why can't we all just come together? After what we went through in 2020, watching you guys bicker and fight over each other, after the speech that Joe Biden just gave in Philadelphia, where he basically called out all the MAGA supporters and basically said that they are a threat to this country. But now you want to come and you want to tell us, why don't we all just come together? How can we come together when people like you, Khanna, when people like Joe Biden, when people like Donald Trump, when people like Nancy Pelosi, when people like AOC, when people like Chuck Schumer, when people like Lindsey Graham are constantly keeping us divided over partisan politics? How?
Question. I think it's a fair question.
Wouldn't that be nice?
And wouldn't that be nice? And do you think that this president has followed through on his promise to best effort unite this country?
We're trying. Look, I forget the blame for a second. I am concerned about China in the 21st century. I'm concerned as a son of immigrants. My parents came here and they said, Ro, you were born an American. You won the lottery. This is the greatest country in the world. And I want to make sure for my kids and for the future, we are the greatest country. And putting aside politics, I really think whatever we can do to come on. That's why I get criticized for coming on Fox News. And I say, well, how are we going to start to talk to each other? And so do I think we can do more to bring this country together? Of course. But we all have to start trying.
Ro, you go on Fox News because you're planning on running for president, I believe, at some point. Let's keep it real. But I want you to listen to what he said here about blame, because then he contradicts himself right after. Let's go. I think it froze on me. Let me go back out and refresh. It does this sometimes. The Twitter. Oh, how do I refresh on here, Eric? I forget. Is this refresh? There we go. I don't think that refreshed. I'll let Eric do it because I'll mess it up. Yep, that was definitely not the refresh button. Okay, let's go back in again to that point.
Yesterday, he's not sure whether he's going to run.
I think it's right about here.
We can be complacent about it, but what he was trying to say is life is largely returned to normal.
He said the pandemic is over.
That was pretty.
The way I would phrase it is that the worst of the pandemic is over. That's how I would phrase it, and that is my view of what the president's intention was. Obviously, he's entitled to his expression, but I think they've done a tremendous job to get a lot of people vaccinated. And why can't we come together in this country? Why can't we just say, look, President Trump and his team helped develop some of those vaccines, and President Biden helped distribute them, and this is actually a success of America, and let's put the partisan politics aside and give credit to people on both administrations who helped develop the vaccines.
Wouldn't that be nice?
And wouldn't that be nice? And do you think that this president has followed through on his promise to best effort unite this country?
We're trying. Look, I forget the blame for a second. I am concerned about China in the 21st century. I'm concerned.
He said, forget the blame for a second. I'm concerned about China. So forget the blame, but blame China? Really? Forget the blame.
As a son of immigrants, my parents came here and they said, Ro, you were born an American, you won the lottery, this is the greatest country in the world. And I want to make sure for my kids and for the future, we are the greatest country. And putting aside politics, I really think whatever we can do to come on. That's why I get criticized for coming on Fox News. And I say, well, how are we going to start to talk to each other? And so do I think we can do more to bring this country together? Of course. But we all have to start trying.
Well, we appreciate the fact that you and your colleague Debbie Dingle are willing to weather the slings and arrows from your own party to join us on
From
Fox.
Scary
We do
Us.
appreciate it.
I appreciate your letting me on.
It's a good
it.
note to end on. We do appreciate you joining us, Congressman. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll see you
Thank
again
you.
soon. All right.
All right.
Thank
You know, it's like they contradict their own statements, like during these interviews. Forget the blame for a second. I'm concerned about China. Black Uni Gryphon? The greatest country that started torturing all over again. Well. Khanna's going to run, watch. May not be 2024, but maybe 2028, watch. He's going to run for president. Mark my words. Let me go to some of the comments here. Socialist MMA, Nick is in the house. Sabby on fire as always. Thanks, Nick. Scott, Khanna has never been the guy he says he is. He is nothing but a public fraud. Yikes, Scott. JB says, like Obama said in regards to running, Joe, you don't have to do that. Remember that, you guys? And thank you so much for the super sticker, JM. Thanks so much for that. I'll take those comments on Rockfin, Eric, and then we'll go to the next story. All right. Thanks for the tip on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. Also, knock out the lazy approach of cracking down on bosses who wish to skate labor laws by being unwilling to hire American workers because they don't wish to pay more money, benefits, and having them work less hours. Roe's answer again reinforces my belief why we need to get rid of political parties. It'll make politicians honest or more honest. He would have just said plain out no. Exactly. That's so true. VP doing a bad job. And thanks for this tip as well. What is he doing his best impression of Rodney King? If he wants us to come together, then we're going to have to get rid of the parties, not just the fact that we got only 2 big parties, but just parties at all, regardless of how many there are. This guy is a contortionist pretzel, bending himself to not make his party unhappy for criticizing Joe. How can you live with yourself? That's a good point. And this is the problem with the 2-party system. This is what happens when you belong to one of these parties. You defend them at all costs. Or you try to grow rogue like Liz Cheney did, and then you saw what happened with her. So there's that. Hit that like button, guys. That helps me out with the algorithm. I don't know what the like check is. You guys are better than that than I am. But we're going into our next story, and this one is about Richard Wolff. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you know, once a week we're covering Richard Wolff's economic update. Every week is a different topic. There's something that he says in this particular segment about third parties that I thought is really important. And I think we need to listen to it because this is really where I think we need to go in reference to a third party movement. Now, the name of this video was called Economic Update, Rising Labor, Faltering System. And this is on Democracy at Work. So again, Richard Wolff is going to knock it out of the park. Listen to what he says here. Pay close attention.
Alliance between worker co-ops on the one hand and labor unions on the other offers extraordinary advantages, and those are becoming more and more interesting to and attractive to people involved in both sides, as unionists or as activists in worker co-ops. And the idea is simply that these 2 institutions could and should support each other. Imagine what might happen if there were to be a new third political party, and indeed there are efforts in that direction now, if it could base itself in part on an alliance between labor unions on the one hand and worker co-ops on the other.
Now let's go ahead and pause there for just a second. A third party movement that was based around workers and worker co-ops and unions. Imagine if we had that. Now, I believe, and I'm not 100% on this, but I believe this is kind of what MPP was hinting towards about bringing a working class like people together. But This is specifically targeting what he's saying here, targeting unions and targeting worker co-ops. What if all of these people that we've seen go on strike, that we've seen try to unionize, the Amazon workers, the Starbucks workers, the John Deere workers, the nurses here in Massachusetts, there's been so many of them, I can't keep up with all the people trying to unionize, Apple, Chipotle. What if all of them came together under one third-party umbrella? And then you add the worker co-ops to that umbrella as well. That could be your powerful third-party movement. Now, that is different from what we have right now with the Green Party. That is different than what we have right now with some of these libertarian parties that we have. This is something unique and given a unique perspective. Now, obviously, you still would need to include some type of, I would say, spokesperson for people who are disabled and cannot work, because they would not be able to join a union. They would not be able to join like a worker co-op. So you would need to include something for them as well. And I think it's important that we remember you do not leave them out. But imagine if we had a third-party movement that was centered around that. Those are the people that we gather together to build the movement. And this is why I say I don't think it should be led by someone who is a millionaire. I don't think it should be led by someone who's a billionaire. Yes, they have the money and the resources and the connections, and I get it. They could probably get a lot of people on board. But the problem that I've seen from the past is that because they don't know the struggle, because they don't know what it's like to actually be working class, oftentimes, if big money comes that way, they are less likely to push back against it if times get hard. If they feel that they can get more money to make the party bigger, they're less likely to push back against it. And I'll give you an example. The Forward Party, for example, I'm going to try to see if I can get Andrew Yang to come on and talk more about that. It's not that way. It's not a working class union type of movement, right? That's really what we need to happen. And I thought that's something that we were going to get through MPP. I don't know what's happening with MPP now, but I think that is the successful third party. Now, there's different ways to go about doing this. Some people say, why don't we just take what you have with the Green Party and build onto it and add onto it? And I've heard, there's struggles there. Some people have said, no, it's chaotic over there. Some people have said they need new leadership. I don't know. I'm not a part of any of these parties. But I think that would it be easier if we took something that we already had and build onto it? Absolutely. Absolutely. But is it going to benefit the needs of people who are trying to do worker co-ops and people who are trying to unionize? That's a good question to ask. If you want it to be a workers' party, then it needs to be led by people who are a part of the working class. And I stand by that. I don't think it needs to be led by someone who is a millionaire. It needs to be led by the people that it is trying to represent. Now let's go on, because he goes more into this.
They might really change the whole attitude. And as we're going to see, that's already happening in terms of labor unions. And so here's a way that these two institutions, by allying, could strengthen each other. And let me say very clearly why that is and how that would work. Imagine unions negotiating with an employer because they want higher wages, because the employer is trying to get away by not raising wages, even though productivity is going up and so on, typical problems of labor unions. But suppose they could fall back on a tool they wouldn't necessarily use, but would let the employer know they might have to resort to it. We know the name of that tool. It's called a strike. Workers ultimately saying, we're not going to work for you if we can't come to some negotiated compromise that's acceptable. Well, what worker co-ops offer unions is yet another one of these weapons that you won't use most of the time, but is very important to have available should you need it.
Let's go into this for just a second. One of the criticisms that has come out from some people about some of the groups that are unionizing, that are starting a union, is to not stop there, is to go that extra step and create a worker co-op, turn that union into a worker co-op. I agree. I don't think it's something that's easy to do, but I want to explain the difference. When you form a union, you basically have a collective group of people that work for such and such company. You're all employees of that company, but you are represented by the union. And that union may provide certain benefits that maybe you did not get before, right? That's why some people are trying to form a union. It could have to do with vacation time. It could have to do with pay raises, how often you get a raise, the minimum amount of raise that you can get. And a lot of times when you're a part of that union, you're guaranteed to get that because you are a part of that union. Different things that go into being a part of it. Here's the problem, though. You are still a part of that company. You don't own any piece of the company. So yeah, you got extra benefits by starting this union, but the company still you're working for them. What are you getting out of it besides a couple of benefits? And I've argued this before that you should already have anyway. People shouldn't have to form unions to get basic necessities and benefits that you should already have just by working here. So then you take the union and you actually form this into a worker cooperative. Worker co-ops are different because as a worker co-op, you actually own a piece of the pie. You're not just an employee. You're not just someone that just comes in there and does the labor and go home. You own a piece of it. That's the extra layer. That's the cherry on top of the sundae that more people, I wish, would push towards and understand. Your end game should not be the union. That should be your starting point. Your end game should be the worker co-op. That's what we really should be pushing towards. Now, he's going to go into more detail about this and break this down.
And it goes like this. If an employer is unwilling to negotiate with you, if an employer is unwilling to meet you halfway, if an employer mocks or tries to destroy your union, you have a new alternative if there's an existing alliance with worker co-ops.
See, let's hear this part one more time. Because sometimes people think that because they started this union, that they're automatically protected, and that's not necessarily the case.
It was like this. If an employer is unwilling to negotiate with you, if an employer is unwilling to meet you halfway, if an employer mocks or tries to destroy your union, you have a new alternative if there's an existing alliance with worker co-ops. You can go to the employer and say, look, if you refuse to talk with us, if you refuse to meet us halfway, we are going to set up an alternative business right here in this community. And we're going to go on strike, and we're going to go work in that other new institution we're setting up.
There you go.
You know, if you're a fast food joint, you don't want there to be across the street from where you are a competing fast food joint with the same workers you used to have, appealing to the community to support the workers which are sort of like them, rather than the company which wouldn't give the workers a fair deal. This is real competition, and no capitalist enterprise ever wants it, except when giving speeches on 4th of July events. A worker co-op is an alternative way to strengthen the labor side in the confrontations between labor and capital.
It strengthens the labor side. I actually want to show you an example of one of those because it's been a while since I've shown this on here. And yeah, it has been a hot minute, but I'm going to share it for you. So here we go. For those of you, let me, oh, is that local news? We can't do that. Let me go back. For those of you that like to do, like to take Uber or Lyft, that's like your jam, your way of getting there. There was actually a worker co-op that was started. Hopefully let me share this on here. Yes, it does. Okay, I can at least share the app. That's what I wanted to do. There was actually a worker co-op started called Co-op Ride. I'm going to go ahead and share this with you now. Last time I checked, it was only in New York, but I know they were trying to expand and make this bigger for you. I talked about this a while ago. And also one of the gentlemen that started this was on RBN for our General Strike Summit, Co-op Ride. So this is another example where, yes, you were working for Lyft or Uber and you saw workers there. They were fighting like, look, we need extra rights. We need some type of benefits. Like, this is ridiculous. You can do that and fight against that and try to form a union and all those things. But this particular group here decided, why don't we start our own ride share and make it a worker co-op? Implement Co-op Ride. And this is the app. You can download this if you're in New York. I highly recommend you should check out this before you check out Lyft or Uber, because this is worker owned. So here's the app here. These are screenshots of it. Again, let's go co-op. Co-op Ride is a driver-owned ride-hailing platform in New York City. We cut out the corporate profits, so riders pay less, drivers make more, and profits go back to workers and our community instead. Join the movement. Make your next trip Co-op Ride. So again, this is an example of what Richard Wolff was discussing there just for a second, because when he said, well, you don't want to meet our demands and let us form some type of a union. Okay, we're going to go over here to Co-op Ride and we're going to join the worker co-op. So that way we'll be a part of something that's worker owned. Do you see what I mean? Now, right now it says this is in New York, but if this continues to get bigger and to grow, this can be a competitor to a company like a Uber and a Lyft. And Uber and Lyft have been getting pretty bad ratings. Recently, actually, I was looking this up. They've been getting pretty bad ratings from people because their prices. So would you rather pay a cheaper price and support a company that is worker owned, or would you rather pay more and support a company that's pretty much a multi-million-dollar company and is not worker owned? That's another example. I had an article for this at one point in time. I can't find it, but it's Co-op Ride. And you can download that on the App Store on your phone. I think there's one more point that Richard Wolff is going to make here. So let's see.
And it's also historical. Here's a question of where we need to learn from our history. After the Civil War in the United States, the first national labor union we ever had in this country was called the Knights of Labor. And the Knights of Labor was successful, grew quickly, involved people in many states of this new country, but it was also very progressive. Let me give you some ideas. It pushed for a progressive income tax decades before that was finally passed by the United States Congress. It fought for the 8-hour day long before it was legally established, and they helped to bring it about. Perhaps more interesting even than that is the fact that they welcomed as regular full members both women and African Americans, something that very few institutions in the United States at that time did. But here's something you may not know. They fought, that is the Knights of Labor, they fought for worker co-ops as the ultimate goal of the labor movement.
See, that was the ultimate goal. That wasn't like the union wasn't the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal was the worker co-op. So worker co-ops are not new. This is going back decades, you guys.
They understood that the power of negotiating with the employer was not just, here's the arguments why we think this is fair, not just, we're willing to strike, to not work, to get our voices heard, our interests attended to. But in the end, if none of that works, we're going to go into business ourselves as workers, and you're going to see capitalism with a real competitor in the United States.
And that's a good point to make too. What happens if the strike doesn't work? If you go on strike and they don't respond, or they just replace you with other workers who are willing to cross the picket line, right? What happens then? What's the backup plan? And I think a worker co-op, again, this is not saying that this is the solution to all of our problems. But I think if you are going to unionize, that should not be the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal should be to have a worker co-op. It's more beneficial for you than the union. And I think, did he have one more piece here?
The local Starbucks, the local Target, the local Chipotle, whatever it might be, they don't want anything like this, and they will come to the table sooner and negotiate more flexibly and meet workers halfway if they have to face an alliance between workers and labor unions in which they get to know each other, support each other. Think with me. If unions who do go on strike can appeal to their allies among the worker co-ops to come out on the picket line to support them. Think with the worker co-ops what might come in the way of customers for whatever they set up if workers in unions know that those worker co-ops are their allies. The whole attitude towards labor movement could change in this country. It would have a powerful new alliance as its advocate.
Well said. So again, Richard Wolff's economic update, once a week. We usually go through it here, break some things down. And I think that, again, we have to ask ourselves, like, what is the end game? And this is not to criticize people who are unionizing or starting a union. It is just to let them know that you can also have something even better than unionizing, and you can have a worker co-op. Let me go to some of the comments here. Thank you so much for the super sticker, JM. See, Brass, our generation isn't built like those from the civil rights movement. There will be small gains made, and that's great. In my opinion, widespread change can't be made without a third party. Door 2024. This is the need for this. Is why I tell people I don't expect, third party to solve everything. It is not going to solve every one of our problems. But I think in order for us to have some type of change, you got to break that duopoly. Guy, how much money does it cost to buy into co-op rides? I actually need to. I wish Roger Meadows was here because he knows a lot about this company as well. I'll have to check with him about that. So I covered this last year when I was first told about it. So, okay, let's go ahead and get into our next story. If you have not heard, it has finally happened. New York Attorney General has sued Donald Trump and 3 of his children. Now, this is in reference to his business dealings in New York. I want to go ahead and get into this. So here we go. New York Attorney General sues Trump, 3 of his children, and their company, charging large-scale business fraud. Attorney General Letitia James alleges the Trump organization inflated the values of its properties in seeking bank loans or deflated them to pay less in taxes. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to make this a little bit larger because their font. Okay. New York Attorney General Letitia James filed a sweeping lawsuit Wednesday against President Donald Trump, his 3 eldest children, and the Trump organization in connection with her year-long civil investigation into the company's business practices. So it has been a while. I honestly didn't even know if this was going to happen because I was like, I don't know, it's taken a while. In the suit, which runs more than 200 pages, James' office details what it says are Trump's efforts to inflate his personal net worth, to attract favorable loan agreements, and alleges more than 200 instances of fraud over 10 years. Over 200 instances of fraud over 2 years. And this is not the first time that Donald Trump has been accused of something like this. I did watch a documentary a while back where there was also a time a couple decades ago. I have to check the date on that, but it was a couple decades ago where, again, he ran into money troubles where they were saying that he was mismanaging funds or he wasn't paying taxes, like these kind of things that rich people have found loopholes to get away with. And he was able to bring in a lawyer to clear him of all of it, even though there was evidence that he wasn't paying taxes. He was able to find a lawyer that was powerful enough to clear him of all of it. So just keep in mind, just because this lawsuit has happened, that doesn't mean he's not going to find someone again that can clear him out of this, clear his name. That's how it is when you have money. James is seeking to permanently bar the Trump family from serving as officers of the New York-based companies and prevent Trump and his company from entering into commercial real estate acquisitions in the state for 5 years. She is also seeking about $250 million in penalties. In addition, her office is sending a criminal referral to the IRS and the U.S. prosecutors in Manhattan. Yikes. Oh boy. I'll get into her statement in a second because I have a video clip I'm going to play of that. A spokesperson for the IRS Criminal Investigations Division declined to comment specifically on James' criminal referral comments, but said in a statement to NBC News, the IRS criminal investigation received tips about potential criminal activity from a variety of sources every day. Special agents review information received for further criminal investigation. The agency does not confirm the existence of investigations until court documents are publicly available. So keep that in mind. And here's the lawyer who is representing him. Alina Habba, a lawyer representing Trump in the case, said James' lawsuit is neither focused on the facts nor the law. Rather, it is solely focused on advancing the Attorney General's political agenda. It is abundantly clear that the Attorney General's office has exceeded its statutory authority by prying into transactions where absolutely no wrongdoing has taken place. Now, again, that's coming from his lawyer. Trump also made disparaging remarks about James on his Truth Social platform Wednesday, saying her investigation was politicized witch hunt and calling James, who is Black, a racist. Okay, of course he would. I never thought this case would be brought until I saw her really bad poll numbers. That's coming from Trump. She is a fraud who campaigned on a Get Trump platform, despite the fact that the city is one of the crime and murder disasters of the world under her watch. Ouch. Let's go down here. A Trump organization spokesman, meanwhile, characterized James' suit as a culmination of nearly 3 years of persistent, targeted, and unethical political harassment. While the job of the Attorney General is to protect the interests of the public, today's filing, for the first time in history of the Attorney General's office, seeks to protect the interests of large, sophisticated Wall Street banks. Now, that's coming from a spokesperson. James' office said in a release that Trump made fraudulent and misleading statements in both their composition and their presentation. Trump also made it known that through Alan Weisselberg, the Trump's organization's former chief financial officer, that he wanted his net worth to increase every year. And he used financial statements as a vehicle to fraudulently inflate his net worth by billions of dollars annually. And that's what her office is alleging there. Wow. So basically, they're saying that Donald Trump here was trying to increase his net worth every year. And he was using financial statements as a vehicle to fraudulently inflate his net worth by billions of dollars annually. Not even millions, not even thousands, but billions of dollars annually. I mean, again, like I said, this is not the first time that he has been accused of fraudulent activity financially. This is not the first time. but he found a way to get away with it. And don't be surprised if he finds a way to get away with it again. Now, here's the actual statement here from the Attorney General. So I do want to go ahead and play this.
The complaint demonstrates that Donald Trump falsely inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself and to cheat the system, thereby cheating all of us. Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization repeatedly and persistently manipulated the value of assets to induce banks to lend money to the Trump Organization on more favorable terms than would otherwise have been available to the company, to pay lower taxes, to satisfy continuing loan agreements, and to induce insurance companies to provide insurance coverage for higher limits and at lower premiums.
Now, I do want to jump in here and just say this for a second, because let's be real. It's not like Donald Trump is the only one who has it's not like Donald Trump is the only wealthy individual who has tried to find ways to pay lower taxes. That's what's funny to me about this. Not saying it's right. Don't agree with it. But they're acting like he's the only one who is doing this. No, they're trying to make an example out of him. Come back with Bill Gates. Come back with Elon Musk. Come back with Jeff Bezos. If you think it's just Donald Trump. Because millionaires and billionaires, they've always had these loopholes. They've had offshore accounts. They have many ways that they can hide their assets and they can hide money so that they don't have to pay what they should pay in taxes. So the way that she's given the speech is just kind of, it's laughable to me in a way, because it's coming across as though, oh my gosh, this person did this. And I'm just like, what rich person doesn't? How many other people who are as wealthy as Donald Trump are finding some type of way to pay lower taxes? Let's see you put those people on blast too. They're not going to do that though. They're not going to do that.
We show that they violated several state criminal laws, including falsifying business records, issuing false financial statements, insurance fraud.
Again, come back with Jeff Bezos. I know. This is just, it's hilarious to me. Oh my God. And the people standing behind her, look at the look on their faces. This guy's face is like, I can't believe it has come to this point, but she has to make this statement. This gentleman over here has a look on his face like, I can't believe they made me stand behind this woman during this boring ass speech. And then you have this woman over here. It's just like, am I on camera? Is the camera on me? Is the camera there? Is the camera there? Here we go.
And engaging in a conspiracy to commit each of these state law violations. We believe the conduct alleged in this action also violates federal criminal law, including issuing false statements to financial institutions and bank fraud. White-collar financial crime is not a victimless crime.
Girl.
When the well-connected break the law to take in more money that they are entitled to, it reduces resources to working people, to regular people, to small businesses, and to all taxpayers. Everyday people cannot lie to a bank about how much money they have in order to get a favorable loan to buy a home or to send their kid to college. And if they did, the government would throw the book at them. Why should they?
But the government won't throw the book at the banks, though. Come back, Miss Letitia James. Let's say that point again. Let's go.
Their kid to college. And if they did, the government would throw the book at them. Why should this be any different?
The government would throw the book at the American people if they were lying to banks, but the government will not throw the book at the banks. When you had banks here who sat up there and stole people's homes during 2008, did the government throw the book at them? No, the government let those people lose their homes. People were homeless. A lot of these people were seniors, Black seniors. They couldn't go just get another job. Where was the government then? The government didn't want to throw the book at the banks, but they'll throw the book at the little people. Come on, bring it. Because I feel it like this. And I am not a supporter of Donald Trump. But if you're going to come after him, make sure you come after all the other people too. Make sure you come after Wells Fargo. Make sure you go after BlackRock. You go after Vanguard. You go after all of these banks and all these companies that screwed people over, that stole their homes. Make sure you go after them too. How about you do that? Won't do that one though. Won't do that one.
It is a tale of two justice systems, one for everyday working people and one for the elite, the rich and the powerful.
The same rich and powerful people that you guys continue to protect, the same rich and powerful people that the government protects, that the corporation protects, that the same people that you guys cover for.
Mr. Trump and his allies may say that these penalties are too harsh or that this is part of a witch hunt. I will remind everyone that this investigation only started after Michael Cohen, the former lawyer, his former lawyer, testified before Congress and shed light on this misconduct. And the remedies are consistent with what we have sought for other businesses that committed the same misconduct.
Girl, you lie. Come on. It's consistent for the same companies, the same businesses that have committed the same misconduct. I just gave you a golden example there of the banks that stole homeowners' homes, that stole Black people's homes. Did you issue those penalties to them? No, you did not. The U.S. government did not. Barack Obama came in and said nothing was done wrong. Made excuses for the banks and let the people suffer. How can you get up there and just tell the bold-faced lie? You guys see the hypocrisy, right? You see this? So whether you like Donald Trump or not, you got to admit, in reference to her saying they have been consistent, they have not been consistent.
This investigation revealed that Donald Trump engaged in years of illegal conduct to inflate his net worth, to deceive banks and the people of the great state of New York.
And so have people like Jeff Bezos. What have they done to increase their net worth? What have they done to Amazon employees to make sure that they get richer? What have they done? You see, they're protecting. They say it's about the rich, about the elite people. She says that, but you're protecting certain rich and elite people. So you're not consistent at all.
Claiming you have money that you do not have does not amount to the art of the deal. It's the art of the steal. And there cannot be different rules for different people in this country or in this state.
What?
And former presidents are no different.
She ended that saying there cannot be different rules for certain people in this country or in this state. But we do have them. We have different rules for certain people in the country and in this state. Is she serious? Are you kidding me? If we didn't have different rules for certain people in this country or in her state, why is Andrew Cuomo, why is he walking around freely? Weren't you presiding over that case? Because he had money, because he had resources. That's why he's walking freely. You kidding me? The Clintons, look at the Clintons. With their corruption, and I'm not talking about what's been said about Bill Clinton. I'm talking about financial corruption. Why are they walking around freely? Hillary Clinton ran for president. after Whitewater? They're all corrupt. They're all corrupt. Biden had 11 women accuse him of sexual misconduct, and he became president of the United States. So don't tell me there are not different rules for certain people in this country. I can't believe it. The audacity. You see how they just lie? How can you do that with a straight face? Like, how do you... I don't know. I'm going to go to some of the comments. What a hot mess. Thank you for the super chat, JM. Oh, I'm starting over. Whoops. Oh, no, that was correct. Cryosynth. Thank you for the super chat. Sorry if any of these people were serious about going after financial crimes. They'd have to go after everybody in office. Thank you, Cryosynth. You get it. Thanks for the super chat, AJF. Roe is wanting us to swap accountability with unity and conformity with how both parties are historically bad at running the nation. That's a good point. Kill your egregors. Sabby, it's what they do. You show the light and makes their evil look stupid. Monique says, Sabby Letitia James is part and parcel of the duopoly establishment. Yeah, there you go. I'll take those comments on Rockfin Eric. And then we'll get to the story about Shaun King, man. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. For them to come to you, start one there. 3, Massachusetts Public Bank has a provision written in there to invest in worker cooperatives to help them grow and proliferate. So this should definitely be a synchronous relationship between... I don't know what happened. Oh, I missed one. Sorry. Thanks. Hey, Sab was driving. 1, regarding worker cooperative union party, I would say learn from MPP. Any party on the left that does not address reparations for Black Americans is doomed to fail. We've seen it happen when MPP refused to embrace it. 2, co-op ride. I'm no longer with them because I didn't like what I saw going on behind the scene. I say if you want a co-op ride in your neighborhood, don't wait. Okay, thank you for that, Roger. Don't wait for them to come. You start one there. 3, Massachusetts Public Bank has a provision written in there to invest in worker cooperatives to help them grow and proliferate. So this should definitely be a synchronous relationship between co-ops, public banks, and hiring people for infrastructure projects. 4, regarding Attorney General James, you took the words right out of my mouth. People way richer in Lower Manhattan. Exactly. Boy, I tell you, thank you for the super chat, AJF. I'm regarding the progressive term co-opted by too many willing to work within the system to a degree that perpetuates it. Roe is one of them. Yeah, because at the end of the day, Khanna is going to tell you to vote for Joe Biden. He's going to tell you to vote for the establishment Democrat if the progressive loses. And thank you for this super chat as well. Die trying. Co-ops are capitalist. Production organized for profit equals capitalism. Just because workers split the profits doesn't solve the irrationality of capitalism. I agree with that. Capitalism is still the problem. I'm just basically telling people that if unions is their end goal, I think that their end goal should be something like a worker co-op instead, because there's more in it for them. But I totally hear you. Totally agree. Shaun King. Where do I begin? It's like every year something comes up about Shaun King, and he is again outed for either misusing funds or taking funds from people, donations from people for one of his organizations that he has, and not producing the product. And this has been a recurring issue with Shaun King. For those who are not aware, Shaun King, I think pretty much rose to the height of fame during BLM, Black Lives Matter movement, but he actually started with TYT. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. At one point, he did used to work with the Young Turks, like a lot of other people. Last year, he was called out again, misusing funds, trying to profit off of Black pain and Black death. And I called this out a while back. I said, I don't know. There's something about this guy. I kind of get this impression that he's basically making money off of Black pain and Black death. And I think I was right. Because as a journalist, how is it you're only covering these stories where Black people are killed by the police and not saying you should ignore that? Of course not. But that's where he was making all his money from, and misusing the funds and not producing the product. Well, last year, it just so happened that Tamir Rice's mother had some things to say about Shaun King. Now, if you're not aware, Tamir Rice was the little boy. He was playing with a toy gun. Police officer thought it was a real gun and shot and killed him. I believe he was only 12 years old at the time. So, of course, Shaun King had reached out to Tamir Rice's family. And there were some things that he did that Tamir Rice's mother did not appreciate him doing. And I talked about that last year. And this is the statement from Tamir Rice's mom. Now, I'm going to show you this first, and then I'm going to show you what he's being accused of doing now. So let's go ahead and get into this. Again, this video is from last year. Don't laugh at me.
So this is the post that she put on Instagram. It says, Shaun King, so it's addressed directly to him. Why do you think it's so important to tell folks we had a conversation? Well, we talked, and everything that was said was very toxic and uncomfortable for me to hear that you raised additional money and then said you did not want to bother me. Personally, I don't understand how you sleep at night. I never gave you permission to raise anything or nothing. Let me scoot up here. Along with the United States, you robbed me for the death of my son. You gave me a cop and donut conversation. All lies, Shaun. Please stop thinking we are on the same page. And then this part is interesting. As a white man acting Black, you are an imposter that cannot be trusted. I'll comment on that in a second. My son was 12 years old, and DOJ needs to reopen his case, period. Tamar human rights were violated. Why would you so ever make it about you? You are a selfish, self-centered person, and God will deal with you, white man. Whew.
Okay, so the name of that video is called Shaun King Called Out. So you got to go back over a year to find that video, like on my channel. But that statement was from Tamir Rice's mom. So that was another example where Shaun King went out to raise money, and he said it was going to be for their family, which she did not give him permission to do. And apparently she did not see this money. Now, I don't know about the white man thing. I don't know. Like I've heard those rumors before that Shaun King is actually really a white man pretending to be a Black guy. I don't know. But I will say, I want to dive into this article that came out the other day, because we need to talk about this, because once again, he's being accused of misusing funds inside Shaun King's shadowy $6.7 million nonprofit. Oh, really? They really tore this up. Shaun King's grassroots law project amassed and spent millions after George Floyd's murder, including six-figure payouts to himself and allied consultants. So here we go. That's him For those who are not familiar, by the way, he was also a part of Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign. I don't know. We're going to get into it. Let's go down. Okay. Shaun King's nonprofit amassed millions of dollars in donations in the month following the 2020 murder of George Floyd, while its signature project to review and redress prosecutorial injustices. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this bigger. Okay. Where am I? Injustices in 3 major U.S. cities floundered. And while King himself and his associates raked in hundreds of thousands of dollars in compensation, representatives of the Grassroots Law Project produced the 2020 financial reports for the King-led outfit in response to questions from the Daily Beast. These materials have yet to appear in any public records database, and the IRS did not respond to queries about why the King nonprofit did not show up in its online files. But the Grassroots Law Project's lawyers noted the agency had suffered internal delays related to the pandemic. The tax documents revealed that during the first year of its existence, a period that coincided with the largest racial justice protest in the nation's history. So you have to remember, this is going back to the George Floyd protest. The organization, get this, you guys, collected more than $6.67 million. Further Federal Election Commission records also show that 2 political action committees tied to the controversial activists have poured close to $500,000 into the organization. The single largest expenditure the Grassroots Law Project made its first year was over $2 million, which the disclosures only state went to bridge the gap between grassroots organizing and legal expertise to reform the American justice system. Guys, that's a lot of money. We're talking millions of dollars here. Let's go on. The organization's representatives acknowledged to the Daily Beast that this referred, at least in part, to the group's flagship program following its launch, Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation Commissions. It was modeled on those instituted after the fall of apartheid in South Africa, that the Grassroots Law Project would go on to help set up in the district attorney's offices in San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Boston. These restorative boards received considerable publicity and fanfare, along with their own website, a fundraising page, and multiple social media accounts when the Grassroots Law Project and local prosecutors announced them in early 2020. There's a speech there about the system not working, the criminal justice system. But more than 2 years on, the commission's online pages appear largely stagnant, much like the initiative itself. Now we're getting into the local territory. Boston. Boston's district attorney office told the Daily Beast that its commission, unfortunately, did not get off the ground. You see this? Did not get off the ground. Didn't even start. Never even started here in Boston. So where did the money go? Going on. While the San Francisco's DA office said its committee had yet to hold a single meeting. Well, would you look at that? 2 years later, no meeting. Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner, who exceedingly close political ties to King and one of his PACs, one of his PACs, have gotten him slapped with thousands of dollars in campaign finance violation fees, did not respond to the questions about the commission status that were left with his office and his personal cell phone. Well. Let's go on. Now, here's the excuse. The nonprofit also asserted that the pandemic was partly to blame for all 3 commissions' failure to launch. Nonetheless, they said the initiative only accounted for around 500,000 of the 2.6 million figure. The remainder, they indicated, went towards various policy pushes and campaigns for prosecutorial leniency, phone banking, donations to other groups, and legal defense funds. And here's Shaun King here. There's Cory Booker. And I can't see her. Is that Remy Ma? Remy Ma. The group also took credit for having helped ensure that Officer Derek Chauvin was arrested, charged, and convicted for murdering George Floyd. They took credit for that. I would say it was the protests that erupted across this country and across the world that actually pushed for that. But okay. The Grassroots Law Project is extremely proud of the civil rights work we have accomplished since our inception. This is a statement from them. We've made over 1.6 million phone calls, sent over 100 million advocacy emails, hosted over 1,000 unique events with 35 brilliant staff members fighting against police violence, mass incarceration, and racial justice. There is, I'm sorry, I saw Adam Schiff's name, and that's concerning. Anywho, the 2020 tax filings the Daily Beast received show King earned a salary of over $104,000 as the Grassroots Law Project executive director during the first 12 months. But the group representatives told the Daily Beast his compensation has since swelled to $250,000 a year, around twice the median compensation for nonprofit executives. Over $250,000 a year for projects that never got off the ground. This is why I tell people you have to be careful about nonprofits. The name sounds good, but that doesn't mean they're always doing the right thing. There's more. The organization's representatives maintained his income was lower than some other groups with a criminal justice mission. The documents also show the nonprofit paid over $135,000 to the Social Practice, a consulting firm that handles the group's financials and which is based out of the box in the same San Francisco mail drop as the Grassroots Law Project itself. Okay. Let's go on here. It says the Daily Beast previously reported that the Social Practice was also on the payroll of Krasner's DA campaign. At the same time, the prosecutor got in trouble with Philadelphia authorities for coordinating with King's PAC and failing to report it. Oh, dear God. This is crazy. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I do want to get into a couple more numbers here as well. Here we go, right here. Project co-founder Lee Merritt was a part of the financial review board that produced the 2019 report, apparently intended to address questions about the fate of millions of dollars King had raised for various social justice causes. Again, this is millions of dollars he has raised, you guys, millions, and no production. Nothing's coming out of this. Let's go back on. Here we go. Public records and materials the groups divulged show the entities associated with two other members of the team of experts in justice reform, law, finance, and compliance, a nonprofit founded by activist Tamika Mallory and the law firm of attorney David Mitrani, have received regular disbursements of cash from the Grassroots Law Project or the PACs. Mallory's group did not only receive donations from the project in the period between March and August 2021, while camp finance filings show payments to Mitrani's firm continued through May of this year. So Tamika Mallory's group said they only got donations from March to August, but according to the campaign finance filings, they were getting payments through May of this year. So it didn't end in August 2021. It went through May of 2022 this year. Let's go down here. The most recent records available show that to date, the social practice has received a combined, this is over 940 million. Did I say that right? 940,000 from the grassroots law firm, the Real Justice PAC, and the Grassroots Law PAC, a third King founded committee where Bond now serves as treasurer. So let's go down here to the bottom. There's one more part I want to show you here. Like I said, the article is pretty long. Go down to this part. They go into more detail about the PAC. Here's an excuse here. They try to say attacks on Mr. King have been used against candidates and elected officials by trolls and people who may pose security threats. GOP does not want to subject candidates Mr. King supported to harassment by publicizing these strategic services. So they're trying to say it was trolls. And then the group maintained that King only received over 28,000 out of the payroll reimbursements last year for services rendered to Real Justice PAC and no money from the Grassroots Law PAC, providing a screenshot from the timesheet. But ethics advocates said the group's rationale for concealing the exact range and scope of work King provided to the PACs did not pass scrutiny. Brendan Fisher of the nonprofit investigative group noted that the PACs did not disguise either their connection to King or to the candidates they supported. So you see how some of these nonprofits, these movements, they're attached to candidates now, political candidates. You see what I'm saying? You see, you donate money to, you don't even know what's really going. Let's go on. And I'm just going to show this part here at the bottom. Like I said, this is a long article. Is this the part here I wanted to talk to? So much here. This is why we have the campaign finance reporting system that has been around for the better part of 50 years at this point, because we have a right as a free society to know the activities of people who are engaged in electoral activities. This part here, Grassroots Law Project did make a mistake by not identifying the two PACs as related organizations. Since the PACs are controlled by the same individuals who control Grassroots Law Project, they are considered brother-sister related organizations. Mayer said that the IRS could impose fines on the group for this omission, though he noted the agency almost never takes this kind of enforcement action. So it goes on, you guys. Basically, to make a long story short, Shaun King was basically scamming people again. This is not the first time. Now, I know I got the call-in thing. This is actually the call-in segment tonight. We're going to talk about this. Why do people, if you're listening to this right now, I got to say this. For the love of God, stop giving money to Shaun King. Stop donating money to him. This is not the first time he's been called out for doing this, for pocketing funds and not producing a product from these organizations. I think this is probably the third time I've talked about it. Stop giving him money for these organizations. He's not producing anything. So if you think it's just me, it's not. I love this one here. This is from Chuck, bringing it home. Chuck says, Shaun King says in a new fundraising pitch, he'll have to shut down his podcast and website if more people don't give him money. He claims he has had to fire some essential employees, but will bring them back if more people give him money. Guys, this is a constant thing. Look, here it is here. Look, if we don't get more subscribers to purchase monthly or annual memberships, we will have to end my podcast and shut down the North Star altogether. Guys, this is a grift. I don't understand why people keep giving this man money. Millions of dollars. Eric, feel free to put that link to that article in the chat for people. Millions of dollars? Oh, what did I do? Oh, millions of dollars. And there's nothing to show for it. 3 locations, Boston, Philadelphia, San Francisco. There's nothing to show for it. Last year, he was called out for collecting money, spending millions of dollars on a house. I can't. Here's another one. And I love this one. This is from Rich Homie Ostasis. Water is wet. The sky is blue. When it comes to Shaun King, Black women tried to warn you. Yes. Stop giving him money. This is such a grift. And that comes from this statement here from Philip Lewis. Shaun King's nonprofit amassed millions of dollars in donations after George Floyd's murder, but its signature project to redress prosecutorial injustices flopped, all while King and his associates raked in hundreds of thousands of dollars in compensation. This is not the first time this has happened. What do you do? What do you do? We're talking about it tonight. That's the call and said, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about it. What do you do when people are still taking the money for like these grassroots organization? Shaun King putting that money in his pocket. He ain't produced nothing. All right, Eric, I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, here we are. All right, there she goes. Sabby going off to the break. Let's how's everybody doing this Thursday night, as we like to call the almost Friday? I hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, so tonight we got more on Mr. Shaun King, and you can let us know what you think. The call-in that will be starting shortly. We'll put in our favorite call-in starting soon banner. Sabby's on a little break, and then she'll be back shortly. In the meanwhile, let's see. We got a few comments queued up here. Let's see. From Rodrigo, Shaun King telling you to vote for Biden should tell you everything you need to know about Shaun King. Yep, I think that's a hint. We got from Terry Hinton saying, yet the IRS want to go after poor people if we don't pay our taxes. Yeah, definitely there. It's yeah, I mean, you don't see the IRS going after the rich people very much, or Wall Street, or the banks, and the same thing for the prosecutor there, Letitia James. All this talk about Trump. How about Wall Street? And, put some of those banksters in jail where they belong. From Where Pilgrim, no soup for you and no money too. And Luis Bedencourt, hearing about all those dollars floating around, saying, can I have some money, please? Thanks for those chats. Let's see what else we got going on. There was, I think we only got some of this last comment from Roger. Hey, let me position this right. So I think, there we go. Here, I'll just read. I think we caught some of this, but not the end of it. So here on the Rockfins, from Mr. Roger Meadows, for them to come to start when this was like continuing, but he was saying Massachusetts Public Bank has a provision written in there to invest in worker cooperatives to help them grow and proliferate. So this should definitely be a synchronous relationship between co-ops, public banks, and hiring people for infrastructure projects. He said, regarding Letitia James, you took the words right out of my mouth. People way richer in lower Manhattan. All right, so then we had, let's see what else we got in here. All right, also here from Mr. Roger Meadows on the Rockfins, that she can go after. Oh, so he was saying the rich people in Manhattan that she can go after, he was saying. However, since Cuomo gave her access to his big money Wall Street donor network so that she can beat Zephyr Teachout, who made it very clear that she was coming for Cuomo, it's going to be hard for James to hold them accountable. Now Teachout is working for her because she was afraid of her. It sounds like a good mess, and basically big money running the show as usual, right? Let me readjust a couple things here. All right, bad cookies. Talking about, 4 of us and not even 200 likes. What have you guys been doing? Hit the like button. Although, bad cookies, I think your screen might be a little bit dated. I'm seeing 369 likes. So sometimes it loses track on a screen, and you have to refresh it. But yeah, we're just giving Sabby a little break here before the call-in, which will start soon. And I think you should be able to see the link for the call-in as the pinned chat in YouTube. And you can either do the call-in by hitting that link, and you could hear it on the browser. I think you can even call in the browser. Actually, you can put it in the chat. Has anyone called in to Sabby's call-in show using the web browser instead of the phone? Let me know if anyone has. You can say I use the web browser, but I think everybody uses the app. And of course, the other way you do it is you install the app on your phone. Oh, bad cookies saying I do. So you mean you're using the web browser? Cool. Well, I guess the other thing is if you have if you're using your computer for Zoom or for gamings with a microphone, then you're pretty well set up to do it. You just have to have a microphone set up. But yeah, I was also thinking on in the earlier segment talking about Ro Khanna, and we think back to these days. I don't know how many of you go that far back, but when he first appeared on the scene, at least for us, with Jimmy Dore, and he was like the cool congressman and agreed with everything that Jimmy Dore was saying, and it was obviously all fake at this point. I mean, he's been exposed, and you really saw it when Max Blumenthal came up to him and started asking him about Ukraine and the war and imperialism, and it's like he just suddenly started sounding like an America First Republican and rah rah, and that was quite a moment. And but I'd like to kind of thank Ro for just letting us know who and what these Dems really are. And there was also this kicker, like he just started talking about China, Sabby, in that interview. She asked him something else, and then he jumps to China, and it's like, what?
You see the fear mongering?
Yeah, it's like Caitlin Johnstone says, like China's next.
Oh my God,
and he's on board, man.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
Anyways, back to Shaun King.
Yeah, we're gonna go into Shaun King tonight on Call-In. So tonight's Call-In episode is Shaun King exposed again. Shaun King has come under fire once again for mishandling funds. This time his nonprofit organization is being accused of taking funds for grassroots initiatives that did not occur. What are your thoughts? We're going to head on over there. So let me go ahead and get that up and going, and I will see you guys on Call-In. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. Really want to hear your thoughts on this discussion. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. The many times he's been called out for doing this, and people still give him money. It's a mess. It's a mess. Okay. So, you guys, you know how we do this. It's Thursday night. I'll be back tomorrow, Friday night. I do have some guests coming up next week, so stay tuned for that. But right now, guys, I hope you have a good night. You know how we do this. Have a good night. Keep up the fight. Don't donate money to the Shaun King.